like to welcome my panelists out here, Mr. Viekas Khokha, Ruchira Bhardwaja. Can we have a round of applause for them? Mr. Pankaj Suri, Ms. Nida Khanam, and I'll be your host, Rizvi. So today we are talking about HR and organizational agility. So there have been a lot of disruptions around that we have seen from 2020 to now, and we have seen that the workforces have started, there has been a hybrid culture that has come in. So during this time, in last 2 years, we have seen how the workforces and the organizations had adopted the new hybrid work culture, and how it has changed over a period of time. I'd like to understand from our panelists and understand that how HR overcame the time and during this time, and how agile were they, and how they sensitized their workforces to be more agile and work during that phase. So I'll start with Mr. Viekas to give his views on it.
It's a very, very interesting topic because now as I attend any forums and there have been a lot of discussions around how to get people back, and I think including my own leaders, say that, finally the time has come that people should come back, and I really question them, is it to relearn, unlearn, or go back, right? So I'll state something very practically which we have been experiencing in our organization is, we looked at agility and why the decisions are getting delayed, or why the delivery to the end user, which is farmer in our case, is getting delayed. So we looked at very core aspects of what is the reason of delay, and primarily looking at one aspect which was alignment. We looked at that word called alignment, and it was alignment within two leaders, alignment within two cross-functional departments, alignment of HR with the respective business leaders. So we looked at alignment as one of the very important root cause, which is causing delay in decisions. And we wanted to get this particular thing cleared. So what we did was we got all of our leaders in one room and try working on various philosophies of how people could come out of their safe zones. Like if somebody is a finance leader, come out of that finance domain, come out of the HR domain, and look at from a common platform of how leaders would communicate and create a solution where your end user is getting the delivery and everybody is looking at that delivery of the end user. So this is how we could co-create amongst leadership, how we could bring in agility. And once we have done it at the leadership level, then things can be percolated easily down the line, right? Rather than expecting the lower down the line teams to go up. So this is one of the practical ways we have dealt this problem with.
So with this, we'll talk a little more about disruption in the insurance sector, and how did you try to cope up with the challenges which were there, and do you see that this culture is going to stay for a long run? So if you can show.
Thanks to BW team for inviting, and good afternoon to all of you. So in Kotak, we say it's an era of never normal. So it is going to stay. It was the pandemic was just the beginning. To tell us that the world has already changed and it will remain ambiguous. And in that kind of a world, there are 4 or 5 things which I think as HR, we need to be absolutely preparing our people for. One is teaching them how to be adaptable. Adaptability is a skill which has to be taught to our people, because you don't know what kind of products have to be launched at what point of time, what kind of services the consumer is going to look for, because somebody else, a fintech company, is going to disrupt, or somebody else sitting in Dharwad is going to come up with one technology which is going to disrupt the world, right? That is one. The second is, in this kind of a scenario where it is ever changing and a never normal scenario, communicate. HR has to communicate extensively. And that's one of the toughest thing, because what do you communicate, how do you communicate is also a skill that needs to be learned very specifically and also taught to leaders at all levels. It's important that that is also done. And third, I think all the panels have been talking about a sense of creating psychological safety, saying everybody is important, irrespective of the pace of change that is happening, irrespective of our own capability to adapt, each individual's capability to adapt to the change. It is important that we create that safe haven for people to say it's okay, this is a phase and this is never normal, this is how things are going to keep changing. So these are, I would say, 3 things that HR would need to continue to do. So we have learnt our lessons, but this is our time to shine in the boardrooms.
Thank you, Ruchira, for that. So I'm meeting Pankaj after, say, 2 years, and that was the day when, COVID started. And the theme of that summit was, where do we see, how do we see HR in 2030? So everyone spoke about that there'll be hybrid work culture and stuff, if you remember. So it happened the very next day. So Pankaj, how the journey has been there, from there, if you can.
No, the journey has been challenging, I would say. I think as my co-panelists already said, this hybrid work is going to stay. And as far as my organization is concerned, where you have almost 70% people who are from that alpha generation, as we call, or the Gen Z, as we call, who are looking at some sort of meaning, in the work that they are doing. So for us as an organization, there were 4 cornerstones, or the 4 pillars around which we looked at this concept of hybrid working. So hybrid is going to stay. Now the focus was on how we can make it effective, right? It was not about debating whether it will be 100% remote or 100% physical. We were very clear that this is going to be the way of working. So when that decision was taken, the next step was how we can make it effective. And for that, we had 4 pillars around which we focused our strategies. And these are the 4 C's, as we call them. The connect, collaborate, co-create, and celebrate. So connect was more about giving people the infrastructure to come together as one team, depending upon wherever they were working from. Even within the organization, if they were looking at coming to office, how we can make office a destination for them. Because now the challenge is, as my co-panelist just said, the challenge is of getting people to office. So how we can make office place very exciting. What is it that is different from what they will not get if they are not in office, right? So that was the idea of how we can make this place more exciting. Second was about the collaboration. The collaboration piece is more about, it's not about coming together. It was more about having the trust and a very unbiased view about people, whether they are in office or whether they are working remotely. Because I think the biggest challenge we are facing today is even the managers who are managing people are from Gen Z in our case. So teaching them and making them aware what it means, if someone is in the office doesn't mean that he's more productive than the person who is not in front of you, right? So that was more about the collaboration. Co-creating. And this is more where I think the inclusion comes. Where I think as an organization, we have been trying to create a culture where even a failure is being celebrated, because many a times what happens is that people don't come forward sharing their thoughts because somewhere in the hindsight they have that fear of failure, that if I fail, what people will talk about. So how we can create, as you said, Ruchira, that psychologically safe place for people, even if they fail, they don't get that discouragement, from the community around them. And the last but not the least is the celebration part, that even if they're working in a hybrid workplace, how we can come together to celebrate those small successes the way we were celebrating before COVID, that handshake and the fist of palm, all of those things, how we can still make sure that people are being recognized for what they're doing. So these are, 4 aspects around which we have built the strategies to make this hybrid working more effective, more efficient.
Thank you, Pankaj. So there's been a lot of transition that happened over a period of time. A lot of learning. So I met Nida during COVID on social media because I had a lot of time and that's where we started interacting. So Nida, could you just share your views and your thoughts from the different industry segment that you come from?
Sure.
So what has the experience been?
Thank you, first of all, BW and Talis. And yes, we met on social media and we're meeting in person for the first time. So I represent a very disruptive industry, which is electric vehicle. So we are very exciting industry, but very disruptive. Every day, everything changes. We create goals, and I think somebody was asking the panel that how long your goals are. So we can have vision, we can have mission for 3 years and 5 years, but we have to work on every month goals. That's how the disruptive industry is. Government would regulate something and things will change. When we say uncertainty and change, I think uncertainty somewhere is very gray, and gray is an enemy of HR. But I think COVID, you call it Bani, VOCA, whatever, has made us learn that we have to, good, bad, ugly, have to continue. So we have to stay ahead. And the industry I represent, there are shop floors. So there are shop floors, and then there is a commercial arm like us. So we don't work on Saturday, and our shop floor works on Saturday. So how do you ensure that you are still connected? They should not feel, and even our senior guys sitting in the plant should not feel that the HO people don't work on Saturdays. So how do you connect? So I think that connect is, I think it starts from authenticity. Intent and action speaks much louder, much, much louder. So when your intent is there, they feel heard, not really just, you know, so you're listening, yes, but are they really feeling that you're listening? That is also important. And risk, de-risk, everything has to continue. We have to understand that know your business, know your people, know your end customer, know your internal customer. Everything has changed. You have to continue knowing everybody, and you have to be very adaptive, as we have been, you know, we just, my co-panelists spoke. So adaptation is very important. If you don't adapt, you're out. You're as an HR or as a CHRO, you're out because you have to continue. I have seen different industries in my career, fortunately. But I think the only thing is you have to adapt. You have to learn your business. You have to understand what is the pain of your sales guys and what is the pain of your production guy if you're a you know, manufacturing or an OEM. So I think that's what continue. So you have to create those cross-functional teams who are adaptive enough, and they can be high potential, so-called an old term, but people who become your focus teams. So I think that's what I feel.
Wonderful. So what the conclusion that we have is that hybrid is there to stay. And to support hybrid, there is something that has come in, you know, HR tech has been playing a very important role. So while we talk about technology in HR, there is another challenge that comes in is about data protection of the employees and how do we, you know, manage the HR analytics and the responsibility of, you know, confidentiality and securing the data in times where cybercrime is up. So comes on the HRs as well because they are the custodians of the data. So I would request Ruchira ji to throw some light on that and we can move further.
So Talis, 2022 was a watershed year for generative AI platforms. I think almost 2.6 billion USD equity went into creating those startups, and almost 110 startups, especially in that area. Now, all of them, they want data. They want everything about us when we are sleeping, when we are, you know, waking up, what kind of watch, what kind of brand, whether we want to wear a watch or not, what kind of holidays we are taking, when do we take, you know, go off to sleep, and everything, you know, where we work, what are the kind of LinkedIn posts we are posting, everything. And the same happens in your organization also. So in your organization also, you would want data about, you know, because you want to reach to potential customers. You want to sell the right product. You want to really make the right pitch to the consumer, whatever they are looking for at that point of time. It could be a destination wedding, it could be a Tirth Yatra, it could be child's education, whatever it is, right? And when you are collecting that kind of a data, obviously the impact of if something goes out of the organization is huge. I was watching this series called The Morning Show, and one of the episodes actually is talking about how it's a media company, how the data, personal data about the employees gets leaked, and the kind of disruption that creates in the minds of people. Performance data gets leaked. People's intimate data gets leaked. When they have spoken to HR, for example, about something which they are struggling with, gets leaked. Now that is where HR becomes a custodian, right? So it's a scary situation, but there are solutions. So the data has to be encrypted. But mostly, as HR professionals, I think we should now take special awareness sessions to educate people what is about data protection. And for example, the DPDP Act has already come in. The digital, what is the full form?
Data
Digital,
protection.
the digital privacy and digital protection of the data. And that has already come in. So it is enforced as we are talking. Our job as HR professionals is to educate our people about how they can protect their own data, how they can protect themselves from phishing attacks, how we can create awareness about what kind of data we should share about our employees with external parties, choosing vendors who understand this entire piece. So hence the entire information security and getting the right people to have data protection in your company becomes extremely critical. And I don't think we can say enough about it at this point of time.
For a country like India, and sorry to say if I say so, data protection was never a priority and is still never, it's still not one of those areas where we have been talking a lot about. To the fact that we have just got the law, made about data privacy. So I think we are quite poor on that as a country. As far as the organization is concerned, look, with AI getting into our lives, there is very little that's hidden. And therefore, I think it becomes very imperative for us to talk about this subject of employee data privacy. And I'll just give you a small example from my firm. We have this application tracking system where we get the CVs, of the prospective candidates who are looking at applying. So there we have given the candidate that flexibility and agility to the extent that for the duration that they would like us to see their resume, they have that flexibility. So if they want to get the resume off after say 30 days, they can actually do that by clicking on that ATS. As far as the checks and balances are concerned, I think a lot has to go from an IT standpoint, whether it's authentication or authorizations. But I think it's more about the behavioral change, the mindset change that has to come. Because we are quite casual when it comes to, as a society, we are quite casual when it comes to data sharing. You can hand over your Aadhaar card, you can hand over your PAN card to anyone, if someone asks for it. I think that's where we have to start educating ourselves and start counseling people who are around us that these are pieces which are personal to you, private to you, and you need to be cautious when you're sharing with others, right? So it's a culture which I think has to evolve. We are still in very, very nascent stages as far as that is concerned.
I'll just add one more thing to what Pankaj said. The penalty of data breach currently is 250 crores to the organization. Now with that kind of penalty in India, can you imagine, and the mindset that Pankaj is talking about, we do background verifications. Tomorrow the candidate says that I do not want you to do my background verification. Everything will crumble in most of the organizations in the HR domain, right? But why do we need to do a background verification is a very relevant question that one should ask. And there would be such examples throughout the journey of not just the employee, but also our customers.
I think what Pankaj was just saying, and I will add to it, It is about behavior. I think from starting, 50% of our people, I think, uses their personal devices. So it starts from there. Being aware that we are actually making ourselves vulnerable to our data. And from there, I think it is about the intelligence. And intelligence is not just about data. It is about culture, it is about social, it is about market intelligence. So I think we are going through that change where we need to understand that everything, even sometimes I really feel that what I was thinking and Google knows that. I was just thinking about it and I start seeing those search. So I think we are living in that world today where everything, you are paying online, you are buying online, your data is available. So organizations need to understand, and when we talk of from the perspective of HR and organization, the first thing is to prioritize. You can't save everything, but you need to prioritize what are your internal, external threats. You need to know what to save and what to secure. Personal data, customer data, supplier data, this is very sensitive. So what we need to have an access, like R&R, you can have an access. You can't have an access of individual salaries, at least for now, right? Though every time a CEO has a complaint to HR that jiski bhi badhai thi wo pata chal gayi. You know, every time he would come in your room and say, you will do this, and next time the other guy is coming on my head and saying that aapne uski to badhai hai. So this is the everyday HR has a challenge, fortunately, unfortunately. So I think it starts from behavior.
Yeah, behavior, and you know, like you said, this is a very small part of data of salary leaks that happens in every organization, and it's still not protected.
Every day.
So, Vikas, your thoughts on it?
So I feel it's a culture change that we need to bring in, and I think I like your idea of, I think what are the penalties to individuals who do that? Who are the custodians? How do we bring the culture change through them? Right. And I personally have brought this, I think 2 years back, I joined this organization 3 years back, and when I joined, this problem was put on my table that everybody knows everybody's salaries. And what do you do? And as an HR head, I could have just pinpointed some people and talked to them, but would it solve the problem unless I make a culture change? Now, a marketing head says my reportee has told my salary to me, and so this is something which had to be brought culturally down, right? Identify, what are your do's and what are your don'ts, and if you follow those don'ts, what is the penalty and who are your leakage points? So I think automation really helped us to bring this in control, Talis, and we could bring in right success points through automation. When we looked at where the data is flowing, how it could flow. Easy for Excel sheets to be shared, easy for the numbers, slightly difficult on protocols which are automated. So I think culture change and automation both brought things in control, and this was practically done.
Lovely.
At least one point.
Yeah, please.
Does that mean we have to every time have a law and a penalty to it? Because that's how we behave. Just adding to what.
So again, I brought the factor of culture change, and
but no, that's what I'm saying. So
know.
every time we have to enforce and reinforce something by really putting laws to it, guidelines to it. I think then only people, when they see a downside of it, then only they will start, I think, behaving or standing in a queue and understanding that, okay, fine, my salary is my salary, my performance dialogue is mine, and I'm not concerned about my boss and my reporting. But I think that's very psychological behavior we all demonstrate.
I mean, while we are talking about some of the transactional aspects of data privacy, I also link it to the culture of the organization that way, I mean, because there are many aspects of individuals who are working, right from their age, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their likings, dislikings. There are many aspects which are private to that individual, So when it comes to creating a culture of respect for each other, I think these are, the basics. These are basics to be followed. If we are not doing that, then whatever you may have on your walls and as values, as whatever code of conduct, it becomes a mockery because you're actually not following that, right? So I think for me, it's bigger than this. It's more about what you're trying to create as an organization. What is that character of the organization that people should look at when they're joining, right? And that is part of that whole employee value proposition that we are trying to create And these are those things which people respect, especially the Gen Z and Alpha generation that we are talking about, because they are so inclusive, they are so much driven with this whole purpose idea, and these are things which are attracting them to join organizations. So if you are not following, then I think we are creating somewhere some lacuna in terms of, you know, creating that sort of a repulsion of not coming to us as prospective employers.
So I'll just, all of us agree that there has to be a cultural shift for everything, maybe it, disruption in the organizations or data privacy. Now coming to the next question that we have in line was about POSH and gender inclusivity, LGBTQ inclusivity. So that also comes as something that sensitization is required in the organizations. So today we are talking about POSH that has been there for 10 years. And I ran an organization that was into POSH trainings and all. And we visited certain people for those trainings and stuff and consulting work. And they said, what we have done is we have stopped hiring women. You know, as Nida said, that if there is a penalty, would they refrain? So it turned out to be a deterrent for women empowerment in the organizations. So while we talk about this POSH and inclusivity and making workplace more safe and inclusive, so what are the thoughts from your end that how the workforce agility should be there, how they should be sensitized to be more inclusive? So I'll start this with Viekas. Viekas, if you can just share your views.
So a very interesting question, and you've linked agility with inclusion, and I think very innovative. I'm taking my memory back to when I was working with Bharti Airtel almost a decade back. Anybody who was part of POSH committee, it was not considered too great to be part there. And, people discouraged, and I remember managers talking to them, what kind of committee have you joined? I wouldn't have recommended you to be there. And, and these were the conversations which were there, because you look at the organization, you look at the yardstick, and you look at the policing, I'm using that word.
Absolutely.
To be able to draw that. I think dramatically these 10 years, I have seen that, and I'm talking of moving from gender diversity to sexual orientation to disability. The kind of, yardsticks we have been created are much, much beyond policing. This is about what kind of conversations people should have, what kind of questions you need to ask, right? And it starts from when you hire a candidate, what kind of questions, what are appropriate and non-appropriate questions. You can't do it with the help of only a stick in your hand, but you can also say that what is right and what is not, right, for anyone. And similarly, the conversations when people, I remember we used to be very scared of those parties where people used to be having drinks more than 3. Then how do we control that? And we would have, again, some of the cases of harassment. Due to that, start avoiding parties or start moving women out early, right? So those days I'm remembering. Now the times have changed where people are, encouraged to have behaviors which are more inclusive, right? By coming across to each other, when they shake hands or when they talk, what is liked and what is not liked. So I think there's a huge change from policing to changing the conversations at workplace to make it more inclusive, is what I say.
You'd like to take up next?
I'll just add one liner. So a very small thing, but I think very recently we were talking of POSH. First thing is that misconception, it is only about women.
Yeah.
So it is not just about women, and I think we talk in that way that every man gets, scared of that, POSH has come. If I'll tap somebody, something would happen. So I think that's something which is very important. The second piece is that recently we were having our POSH training as everybody does it. So I was talking to the lady who takes care, my colleague, and I said, why don't you do it in a way that it becomes a value awareness than a POSH awareness? Because when you inculcate in your cultural values, it is easy for people to attend also. Because when we're there talking of what are your do's and don'ts, especially when the description from POSH policies, It becomes sometimes embarrassing for people, oh, I have done this. I was tapping somebody, I was kind of a little free with somebody while expressing or talking, which was obviously unintended. It was not with an intention of making a wrong remark or taking advantage. So I think if we start making it normal, then our compliance and our law, it becomes easy for people to accept and imbibe. That is what my take is.
So I totally agree with Vikas. We have come a long way. The other day I was reading a very senior person, a CXO from Spotify, said it's now not just about diversity or inclusion, but it is about belonging. Yeah. So diversity is that you have diverse set of people, and inclusion is that if you are going to a party, you include that person, you invite that person to the party, and belonging is when you play the song that the person likes. And I think that's where the world is moving, and hence HR has to be agile enough to shift gears to go there. I look around myself, and not just now, but the organizations that I have worked earlier. Prashant is sitting there. In Taj, Prashant, we had people from every economic background who would join, and each one will have an amazing space within the organization to make a difference. And all of us know about what the Taj Mahal people did for our guests who were staying that night on that fateful night in 2008. And that is the case even now. Look around us. Every kid on the roadside has a TikTok, TikTok is not there anymore, an Insta page. They have Insta page with amazing followers, and they do painting, singing, dancing, whatnot, stand up. And these are the kids, we would say that they might be our future employees, right? People who might be working with any one of our organizations. Our mindset, is it inclusive enough to say, this is the child who's going to be working with us, and am I prepared to be working with that kind of a person without any biases? So that's first. The second is, all of us hire saying it should be a culture fit, right? And most of traditional organizations, we hire saying, is it a cultural fit? I think now it's the point to add to the culture. And that really is being agile and being culturally agile and culturally inclusive, right? So when you add cultures and you just not get somebody to fit your culture. And that's how, look at our demographics, look at the room here. So many of us from different educational, economic backgrounds, from different states. And we are all here together, correct? And can you imagine if we all have to create a product together for a consumer? Voila! I mean, it's going to be an amazing product, and that's what it is. It should be. So inclusiveness is, I think, and I like that Spotify thing, it's about belonging, but also understanding our own mindsets to include people who are going to be our potential workforce in just like down the line.
Off to Pankaj. Pankaj, I think you will be the last one on this panel to respond. Yeah, they've restarted the time.
Oh, there. So I have enough time. No, I think I agree with all my co-panelists. I mean, for me, this aspect of POSH, again, is just an aspect. It's just part of a huge aspect of that culture that we want to build as an organization. And for me, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, look, diversity is very easy to achieve. I mean, you go around, you pick people from different backgrounds. I mean, it's easy to have. I think the challenge starts with the inclusion, because that's about the mindset of the people who are in the organization, and that's where the challenge of accepting and belonging and understanding their concept and celebrating what they bring as a uniqueness. We always talk about our way of working. This is this organization's way of working. I mean, why we have to get people conditioned to that way of working? Because then what you're trying to achieve is people like you, around you. And that's where the creativity gets snubbed, because The reason why you are getting that diversity included is because you want to respect what different people are bringing as different viewpoints, you know, to the same problem. So if you are trying to create a culture where they want to be part of that way of working of the organization, then that's not the right way. I think that's where we need to start celebrating what people are bringing as those different viewpoints, right? So for me, I think there are these 4 aspects when we look at something like this, which is more around the workplace behavior. It's about the culture I already spoke about. It's about the communication. I think you need to keep hitting people with that piece all the time, because it's about saying no to things when they are not in accordance with the code of conduct of the organization. And we have to give people that freedom where they're courageous enough to say, no man, I'm not liking this, right? The third piece is the cadence, that how frequently you are communicating. You know, doing that one posh training in a year, is that enough? No. I think we have to create a culture where it's an ongoing thing in the organization. Whether it's at my level, whether it's my peer, juniors, you know, everyone needs to be the ambassador of bringing that piece into the organization. And the last but not the least is the commitment. And that is more important, because if a case has been reported, how quickly we are addressing that, because that is the demonstration of the fact that this is serious to us and we are living to the values that we are propagating as a firm, right? So these are 4-5 pieces that I believe are very important when it comes to something around workplace behavior.
Lovely. So we have some couple of things, you know, with respect to agility and inclusion. And I would also like to announce that in December, we'll be having our DEI awards and summit, and I request all of you to be a part of that, probably in Mumbai. So, so with this, I would like to thank all my panelists. Mr. Viekas, thanks for being here. Ruchira, thanks for being here. Pankaj, Nida, thanks for being with us. Thanks a lot. Take care.